And we're live.
Thank you all for coming to my press conference here at City Hall. I will now be opening it up for Q&A.
Sir?
So, yes.
Hi, yes. My immediate question is, why is it that New York City Hall is deciding to get rid of the Thomas Jefferson statue? I thought that he presented a lot of great American history. He's quite literally a role model for a lot of young Americans. Why get rid of the statue?
I'm going to stop you there. First, asking these kinds of questions is racist. Secondly, you should know that there are much better role models for people in this country than Thomas Jefferson.
Oh, Thomas Jefferson. Okay, so you're planning on replacing the statue? Is that correct? Or
Yes, they.
any plans? Oh, okay. And what are you planning on replacing it with?
Well, we have a couple of options, which I'm actually very excited about. We have JoJo, who is a child pedophile. We have George Floyd, definitely an upstanding citizen. Karl Marx is one that we were thinking of as well.
Wow.
So we have a few good options that we're thinking of.
This is genius. I can't wait to see what New York City Hall looks like in the coming years.
Well, with your point of view, you might not be around to see it because you might be in the gulag. But for the rest of the good people, I think it'll be pretty nice.
Wow. And scene. Guys, our cold opens are constantly getting a little bit too close to home. We're going to get to that story. That is the Thomas Jefferson statue being removed from New York City Hall. We're also going to be talking about some more responses, ridiculous responses, to Kyle Rittenhouse and his recent acquittal, as well as some Thanksgiving TikToks to sort of lighten the mood a little bit, and some recent drama with J.K. Rowling and the response to a tweet towards the transgender community, not really towards the transgender community, that she put out over a year ago now and is still continuing to get backlash. But before we get to those stories, we have a very special guest on the show today. His name is Nick Searcy, and he's producing a new film that is coming out soon called Capital Punishment. But it's not the capital punishment that you particularly think about. Nick, what is the capital punishment that your film focuses on?
Well, it's by and large a movie about what's happening to people that went to Washington on January 6th and how they're being treated by the FBI and the Department of Justice. And that's why we call it capital punishment. They're punishing people who went to Washington on January 6th to express themselves. Most of the people in our movie never went into the Capitol, and yet they're facing possible jail time and having their businesses ruined and their homes broken into by the FBI. And so it's a pretty devastating indictment of what our government is doing.
And so I watched the movie that you produced. I thought it was really good. You're funny. Not as funny as
well, that's the important thing. That my jokes are good is the most important thing about the movie.
It is. No, truly. Because it is cool that you can take a very heavy subject and you can make it a little bit lighter. So I think that helps it transcend into a greater audience, which I think is really good. But some of the things that were in the movie that were really heavy that, you know, for me was really impactful was the times when it was the two families near kind of the beginning who they're just chilling at their houses and the FBI comes. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, both of them the same thing, and this happens over and over again to people in the movie. 6 a.m., no warning, armored vehicles coming down their streets, 40 to 60 agents, SWAT team members, flashbangs, loudspeakers, come out of your house with your hands up. I mean, basically treating these people who have never been arrested for anything before in their lives, treating them like they are dangerous drug cartel leaders or terrorists or serial killers. And in one case, they handcuffed a man's 13-year-old daughter, put her out on the sidewalk. And you just watch this and you go, what could the reason possibly be other than they are intentionally terrorizing and demonizing people who went to Washington on January 6th.
But what was the reason that they said? Because those two families that were in the film did not actually enter the Capitol on that day. So what were the reasons behind them that happening to them?
Well, they're charged, those two particular families, the men that went to Washington, they're charged with some sort of a conspiracy because 5 of them rode in the same car. And they're charged with, entering a restricted area. And I believe, conspiring to obstruct an official proceeding, none of which is true. I mean, if conspiring means calling up your friend and going, hey, do you want to go to Washington? That's about the extent of their conspiracy, And so a lot of these people, more and more as we went through filming the movie and the more these people we talked to, it just began to pile up. And the fear that they are meant to instill is working. I mean, we talked to a lot of people. In one case, we even did an interview with a man who then called us up and said, "Take me out. My lawyer said I can't speak up. They're gonna destroy my life. Take me out." And so a lot of people were afraid to talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, it really is quite genius in a lot of different ways. There's so many ways you can go with painting this to be the insurrection that they've painted it as. And I think a heart of it is making these people felons, of course, takes away their right to vote. It takes away their Second Amendment as well. What do you think is the broader implication of the way that the government is handling what happened on January 6th?
The broader implication is that it's just one more lie that they're putting forward, and the purpose of the lie is to intimidate and to demonize any opposition to their agenda. So not only are you neutralizing these people by making them plead to a felony so that they don't face 62 years, you are also silencing the community, the neighbors, the people around them, watching what's happening to them and going, well, I'm never going to speak up. Look at what happened to Derek, and that is the intention. They want to intimidate and demonize. And you'll see in the movie, a lot of these people are suffering consequences that are not necessarily done by the government. It's done by their communities.
Yep.
They've been demonized. They put it in the paper. Insurrectionist Nick Searcy, for example, is arrested. Well, they destroy this man's business. They stigmatize him in the community. He can't go to church. He can't get another job. His children are teased at school. I mean, part of this is weaponizing, Americans against each other.
That's really important. I mean, something that is also important about these people is that these aren't people who have the means to defend themselves necessarily, like in terms of funds, in terms of knowing lawyers, in terms of all that kind of stuff. And so they want to make you think that, hey, you're a normal person and this can happen to you. Yeah. You don't have to be some rich person this is going to happen to. This is going to happen to you just because you spoke up, just because you had a difference of opinion, just because you showed up somewhere, just because, you crossed state lines to be in Washington, D.C.,
right.
Whatever it is.
State lines are now inviolable, by the way. You can't go across state lines, but the international border, that's fine. No
so God forbid you go to a school board and talk out against CRT or you're a domestic terrorist.
Right.
It's an infinite amount of intimidation and fear tactics for the American people. What is your advice to people who see this happening? And obviously your immediate reaction is, that's terrifying. Yeah. I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to lose, the time that I have with my family. What do you advise them to do?
Well, I take heart from what's happening in these school board meetings. I take heart from that because what you can do is not accept it. You stand up and do not be afraid of these people because they're being bullies. And what happens with bullies is if you stand up to them, they run away. They know that it's not going to work. So you have to have the courage to stand up. And that's what these people in this movie are doing. Just by being in the movie, they are risking a lot, but they're standing up for what they believe is right. And we've all got to do that. And going back to one thing you said, one of the questions I ask continually as the movie is, why aren't they coming after me? I didn't do anything any different than these people. And the reason is just what you said. They are going after people who don't have the means to wage a $100,000 legal fight, and they present them with this choice of like 6 months for one felony or 62 years you risk by going before a jury, because they're trying to pile up these plea bargains so they can say, look, we got all these insurrectionists to admit their crimes. It's like something out of the Soviet Union.
Seriously?
Yeah.
It's like not a fair trial whatsoever, especially these people have to go back to Washington, D.C. I mean, those aren't their peers.
No, and a lot of these court-appointed attorneys, they're not working for their clients. They're working for the government. So they're trying to get their clients to plead guilty. They're not defending them. And it's really sad and disturbing. It's also sad that people on our side, on the conservative side, have not stepped up to create a legal defense fund for these people. A lot of our attorneys are afraid to defend January 6 people because they don't want the stigma. Awful.
I mean, it's a continuous pattern. I mean, look what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse. GoFundMe said nobody is allowed to even raise legal defense funding for you. The media painted them as an extremist, as they've done with everybody at January 6th. And if that's the case, if that's what's happening subsequent to these issues and subsequent to these events, are you truly getting a fair and just trial? How is it possible when your entire jury has been tainted by the news media and everything that they see? Mm-hmm. So are you hopeful with what you've seen and what you've done with this film?
I am. I think that one of the ways you fight back is just by being open about it and just saying, look at this. What I want people to do with this film, whatever side you're on, left or right, look at this and tell me if you think that the way these people are being treated is what should be happening in America. Yeah. I don't care what side you're on. If this was happening to, if Trump was doing this to Democrats, I would be against it. It's just wrong to treat these people this way and to characterize they basically are lying about what happened on January 6th. And they are characterizing it in a way that will help them advance their agenda.
Now, where's the ACLU? I mean, this used to be something that they would be so involved in, coming and defending someone's freedom of speech, to be somewhere, to protest, to do all that. And now they're tweeting about men have periods. It's like all the institutions in this country that are supposed to be defenders of freedom, defenders of the truth, like the mainstream media. The mainstream media should be the people to hold bad government officials accountable, right? That's like what the media is about. But that's not what the media is now. Now the media is parroting the same lies that these government officials are saying. Yeah. And it's like you just have this never-ending cycle of lies and malice.
Yeah. Leftists ruin everything. Yeah. And they have ruined every institution. They've corrupted every institution. The media, academia, FBI, law enforcement, the government. They have corrupted almost every institution in America right now. And the only way we can fight back is to call it out and to say, look, this is what's happening, everybody. Do you support this?
Yeah. And you've done that in your recent movie. Where can people find that and support you?
CapitalPunishmentTheMovie.com is where the movie's being released on Thanksgiving Day. You can buy it there. And we're releasing it that way to try to go around all the Hollywood gatekeepers and, to make it directly accessible to an audience. And that's why I keep saying it's very important that movies like this are successful, that they become successful, because we're going to have to replace Hollywood. It's ruined itself. It's told at least half of America that they don't care if they watch their shows anymore. They've demonized everybody that's not a Democrat. So we're going to have to create a new entertainment system that we can actually enjoy and not be hated. You're watching a show and all of a sudden, oh, they hate me. Oh, well, let's go look for something else.
Right.
I know. And then you try and go to ESPN. Oh, they hate me too.
Yeah.
Try to go to Food Network. Oh, this dish tells me how white I am. It's like everything.
It's amazing.
You can't get away from it.
No, you can't, man. Yeah. And that's what's really sad about all this, because I'm sure, you've been in Hollywood for a long time doing stuff, working on things. And I'm sure that you've seen just how much worse it has gotten.
Oh, yeah. It's gotten worse. But, I have to say, since I've been open about what I think and since I've sort of been making these things, I've been busier than I've ever been. I did a movie with Gina Carano in the Daily Wire just recently. Right before that, I did a movie with Nicolas Cage. And it's like, I just sort of encourage people to, stop being afraid of the bullies in Hollywood too. As long as we give them power, they're going to use it.
Yep.
If you just tell them, I don't care what you think about me, then the ball's in their court, and you can do what you want.
Right.
So
Nicolas Cage is on our side? You don't have to say.
I don't want to out him. I just...
Who knows? Who knows,
listen,
ladies and gentlemen?
This is TMZ, okay?
I will say this. He liked me.
There you go.
That's good. Okay. I'll tell you a quick Nick Cage fact.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage had got casted for Aragorn in Lord of the Rings, and he turned it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's all.
Wow, that's all you.
I'm a Lord of the Rings nerd, so I'm like, this is, I know these kinds of facts about it.
That's funny because Nicolas Cage doesn't turn a lot of things down.
Yeah, not anymore.
It's hilarious.
Hey, man, we'll really, really appreciate you coming on and doing this. You guys can go to CapitalPunishmentTheMovie.com. Yep. It's with the Western Journal if you can't find it too, but Capital with a O.
Yeah.
Not with an A.
With an O.
Yes.
Very important.
So, buy it Thanksgiving Day. If you have a nice dinner and nobody gets in a political argument, you can turn this movie on and all hell will break loose.
There you
Good.
go.
We're looking for the fight.
Yeah, in case you needed a little drama in your life, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right.
Nick, thank you so much for being on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Now we're going to get into some more drama. If you don't have enough drama coming up in your Thanksgiving dinner with your family, boy, do I have a story for you. This one's involving J.K. Rowling. You know her. You love her. If you're a fan of Harry Potter and the books and the movie franchise, she is largely responsible for that. But she's been under fire, not only recently, but for almost a little over a year now, for a tweet that she put out in June of 2020. Let me go to this tweet before we get into the story here. Here's the tweet that J.K. Rowling put out. If sex isn't real, there's no same-sex attraction. If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives. It isn't hate to speak the truth. Apparently, it is hate to speak the truth. Now, this tweet did get an abundance of support, over 200,000 likes, over 90K retweets, and it's still going because luckily it is still up on her page. But as you can imagine, saying that sex is a real thing and that there are men and women and that there are sort of binary biological rules that go along with this is a very contentious thing to say, specifically because the transgender community is really the new victim of the left. The beacon of wokeism has been bestowed upon the transgender community. So they weren't happy about this tweet in June of last year, and they're still not happy about the tweet now. So much so that J.K. Rowling had to tweet this out just a couple days ago. Last Friday, my family's address was posted on Twitter by 3 activist actors who took pictures of themselves in front of our house, carefully positioning themselves to ensure that our address was visible. So J.K. Rowling was doxxed. She was doxxed by activists willing to stand in front of her house and take pictures of her address and then post it on the internet for the public to see, simply because they do not like her tweets about the transgender movement. And again, they're not even tweets about the transgender movement. They are tweets acknowledging sex. She even stipulates in the tweet that I just read to you that she loves trans people. Now, this is very reminiscent to me of what happened to Dave Chappelle. We know Dave Chappelle put out a comedy special called The Closer on Netflix, in which he criticized the trans community, made several jokes at their expense, but ended that comedy special by saying, the transgender community is simply having a human experience. That's what they're going through. And I love and respect the transgender community. He even had a transgender person who would open his comedy show, if you watch the special, who has died committing suicide after being attacked by the transgender community. So it's so strange to me that somebody can simply acknowledge that biological sexes exist while still expressing direct concern, love, and respect to the transgender community, yet the hate persists. And it's an onslaught of hatred that does not stop. It has not stopped since she made that tweet in June of 2020. Now, she goes on in this thread to talk about what has happened after she was doxxed. Here we go. I implore those people who retweeted the image with the address still visible, even if they did so in condemnation of these people's actions, to delete it. Over the last few years, I've watched appalled as women like Allison Bailey, Raquel Sanchez, Marion Miller, Rosie Duffield, Joanna Cherry, Julie Bindel, Rosa Freeman, Kathleen Stock, and many, many others, including women who have no public profile, but who've contacted me to relate their experiences, have been subject to campaigns of intimidation, which range from being hounded on social media, the targeting of their employees, all the way up to doxing and direct threats of violence, including rape. And I can say to you personally, as somebody who works in this field, J.K. Rowling doesn't even work in this field. She simply put out a tweet expressing her opinion. As somebody who works in this field, I directly experienced this too. I'm sure there's many people who, if they could get my home address, would love to dox me. I get death threats all the time, threats of rape, threats of violence, things like that coming through my inbox on any given day. And J.K. Rowling expresses the concern that she feels for women that don't have the platform that she has, women that aren't public figures, because they don't get to defend themselves like she does. She can put out a tweet saying, hey, these activists put my address on Twitter. Can you please report it and get it taken down? And millions of people will come to her aid and try to help her do that. What about the women who don't have that? They just simply get attacked.
Oh, am I back on?
You are back on,
I
Will.
thought you were just giving your rant.
No.
I had to walk Nick out, but
Yes.
now I'm back. Obviously, these people don't care about women. If they cared
Clearly.
about women, they would care about women's safety and making sure that women aren't doxxed and stalked and harassed and potentially even hurt in real life. they would make sure of that. So they don't actually care about women. They only care about their agenda. They don't actually care about trans people. If they cared about trans people, they would be working to get better mental health stuff and all sorts of different tools so that they can use them so that they can be healthier and happier people. Because it's not like since the world has gotten more accepting of this trans stuff that suicide rates have gone down or anything like that. They've actually gone up. Yeah. So if they actually cared about these people and it wasn't just about their own vanity, then maybe we would see some changes. But this is how these people act. You can't expect communists and evil people to act any different.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And she followed up her thread and ended it with this. And I think it's a really great tweet that sort of sums up what should be widely held on any political campaign that you claim to be a beacon of. She says, I've now received so many death threats, I could paper the house with them, and I haven't stopped speaking out. Perhaps, and I'm just throwing this out there, the best way to prove your movement isn't a threat to women is to stop stalking, harassing, and threatening us. That's exactly right. What is the goal there of doxing J.K. Rowling? Did you now influence a woman to support your community further? Did you now influence her followers to go, oh, well, let me look into the trans movement and see if I support the people who are doxing this woman that I love and the woman whose work I support. That is really doing a lot for trans community education and education about the campaigns that you're doing. It's not accomplishing anything. And for a community that gets on the internet and complains so much about the violence against them, where do you have the right to do the same thing to somebody else?
Psychopaths. To go and dox someone like that and be okay with it and think that you're in the moral high ground, you are a psychopath. There's something wrong with you.
It's just simply not right. And it's come to the point now where people, in the interest of their own woke ideology, will put other people in danger, threaten them with violence, send them death threats, talk to them about being doxxed, put hateful messages on their social media posts, leave hateful messages at their houses. What does that do for you? What does that do for your movement? Really think about that. I want the 3 people who went outside her house and took a picture of her address to really sit down with themselves and go, well, what exactly did I accomplish other than some publicity for her tweeting it out from you? You've just scared somebody and you've intimidated them, and she's not backing down from her stances. And nobody who believes that sex is real and that that men and women are men and women is going to change their minds because you dox their address.
No, they're not going to.
It's simply ridiculous. So I can't imagine this is going to be the last story with J.K. Rowling. She's been going through this, again, since she tweeted that out in June of last year. It's been over a year, and the onslaught of hate is still continuing to go on. So there will be more J.K. Rowling stories.
Yeah, I mean, did you mention just last week we covered the story where she was excluded from the Harry Potter 20-year reunion by all the cast and everyone that was in Harry Potter.
Yep.
She wrote the books, but is not invited to the reunion of them because she acknowledged biological reality a couple of years ago.
So ridiculous.
This is why if these people cancel you, you need to cancel them back. Okay? If J.K. Rowling is excluded from a Harry Potter thing on HBO, then she should set up her own Harry Potter thing and exclude all of these losers who wouldn't let her be on it. That's what I would do.
That would be an interesting thing to try to facilitate.
That's like, there's a lot of like people in the conservative movement. There's like, you know, you kind of have like the old school establishment GOP conservative stuff, but then you have like new groups and they're now excluding these other people who excluded them before. You know, it's like, it's cool that way. If people are going to cancel you, you got to cancel them back, you know? And
I'm not sure how she accomplishes that in this particular
I'm not saying
instance.
in this, no, we were talking about the Harry Potter
Okay, gotcha.
Thing, you know, but
she should dox all the people who dox.
No, you don't go down to their level.
Yeah,
don't go down to their level.
That's my thing. It's like,
there's a lot.
Don't. Yeah, you be the person who actually stands by tolerance. Be the person who actually is, an emblem of what they claim to be. And J.K. Rowling is that. She says, I do love the trans community. I do support the trans community, but you don't get to tell me that I'm not a woman and that anybody can be anything. And that's it. That's it. And she is maintaining her tolerance. She is maintaining her civility. She's maintaining her values, while other people can skew whatever their moral compass may be, all for the sake of pushing their agenda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these people are making fools of themselves.
They are.
They're choosing the hill to die on, is that unless you adopt our ideology of blind affirmation of this stuff, even though we know that that's leading to higher suicide rates among the very trans people that they claim to help, unless you conform to, that's what it is. They're not interested in open debate. They're not interested in facts. They're not interested in helping trans people. They are interested in ideological conformity, and they are triggered when you don't conform. And it's the same thing we see across the board with the left. It's like you must conform to the mainstream narrative, or if you're wrong on any point, we will beat you into submission, we will cancel you, and we will dox you, we'll do whatever we have to do, and then everything besides argue and have civil debate or anything like that.
And they will double down on what they say every single time. Another example of that, here's the article by Fox News. View host Whoopi Goldberg claims Kyle Rittenhouse committed murder despite the acquittal. The quote here is, "To me, it's murder. I'm sorry." She's not sorry, first of all. Don't say words you don't mean. You're not sorry at all. You think that he's a white supremacist murderer with no basis for having that argument, and you're willing to say that live on air to the millions of people who watch you and look to you for your opinion. To give some background here, Goldberg said that she viewed Rittenhouse actions as murder despite the jury's verdicts on Friday over the 2020 shooting deaths of Jojo Rosenbaum, as Mark Ruffalo would call him, Anthony Huber, and Gage Grosskreutz. Rittenhouse successfully argued he acted in self-defense, but Whoopi Goldberg does not accept that. She said she wanted to express a video and talk about her relation to a video of Anthony Huber's father on CNN lamenting that Rittenhouse was being revered as a hero while holding up the urn containing his son's ashes. She says that's what she thinks about when she thinks about the Rittenhouse trial. She thinks about Anthony Huber's father, and she says that Anthony Huber really wasn't doing anything wrong. He saw Kyle Rittenhouse shoot somebody and decided, you know what? I'm going to take out the kid with the AR-15 with my skateboard. And in doing so, he did nothing wrong.
It's ridiculous. The fact, again, I mean, just the fact that you can see the information right in front of you, have the trial go that way, and still not make a different opinion of yourself, like never being able to admit that you were wrong.
Yep.
That's crazy. You have to be crazy to think that.
You really do.
Like, all the information is right there.
Yep.
There are so many people telling you this is what it is. All you have to do is look.
Yes.
And you won't look. Why won't you look, Whoopi? Yeah. Whoopi, look. It's there. The information is right there.
It is right there. And you have secretaries and assistants who just force feed you the information every single morning before your show. It is right there. And to look at everything surrounding this case, and I mean, Kyle Rittenhouse got the most unfair trial a person can get. After nearly a year and a half of the media and all these corporations labeling you a white supremacist extremist, then they're going to go and try to find a jury that hasn't been tainted by the things they've heard in the media. Also, they're going to have a jury that is constantly getting followed and pressured into having a certain verdict. He had it's unfair. It is not a fair and just trial when the media has so much control over what people see and believe in regard to these cases. And luckily, he made it on the other end with an acquittal. But that might not have been the case. There are some who are not so lucky, and it doesn't happen. We got justice in this case, but oftentimes that does not happen. And we should never have to find justice under these circumstances. He should have had a fair and just trial from the start. The media should have treated him fairly, and I hope he sues him. And I hope he gets his bag. Secure your bag, Kyle, because you deserve it.
The reason why we show something like The View or a CNN clip or something like that, at least for me, is in hopes that you will turn it off and never watch it again. That is why I show these clips in these types of things, because they are people who, if they're not responsible enough to do their own research, if they're not responsible enough to care about your well-being because they'll lie to you, if they're not responsible enough to tell you the truth, then you shouldn't watch any of these people. Okay? There's a difference between watching people who have a difference of opinion than you, and maybe it's like whatever, like they think, oh, maybe taxes should be this much, or, you know, I have different opinions on this social policy. Watch different people. I watch lots of different people. But when there are people legitimately going out of their way to lie to you, don't watch them. You should turn off The View, turn off CNN, turn off MSNBC, and never watch them again. Because these people do not tell you the truth. If they do not tell you the truth and all you are doing is hearing lies, don't watch them. Don't watch them, and tell everyone you know to not watch them, because it makes the problems in this country even worse. The only reason why we even give these people the credence and enough time to talk about is because people still watch them. I don't know why, but they do.
And it's important to point out, it's on both sides too. There's a considerable amount of bias in our news media, regardless of which side that you fall on, and that's not what we should be shooting for on either aisle, on either side of the aisle.
Bias isn't necessarily bad.
Bias is not necessarily bad, but when it infringes upon you giving facts and giving a multitude of perspectives and not allowing people to truly digest what is happening around them, then it is. And it's problematic that you can turn on the news. Like I said this on the show, I think literally yesterday, you turn on the news and you don't go, well, I'm looking to see what happened today in the world. No, I'm looking to see Joy Reid's opinion about what's happened in the world. I'm looking to see Whoopi Goldberg's. I'm looking to see Sean Hannity's opinion on what's happening in the world. They don't just sit there to tell you the facts. They sit there to sway you. And that's not what journalistic integrity is. It's really not.
Well, it depends a little bit, because if you come out and say, I'm an opinion piece, listen, people will come and watch our show. We are conservative news, or conservative media. That's like, we're conservative media, and people come and watch and know that that's what they're going to get. And if people say that that's what they are, that's fine. You can go say you're conservative or left-wing, whatever it is, you're fine. You can have facts in your show while still being more opinionated. But it is a problem, that's what I'm saying, with a news organization like CNN or something like The View, is that they are coming on basically and saying, these are the facts. And pretending that they don't really have a bias. Mm-hmm. That is why it is evil. That is why it is demagoguery. That is why you need to shut it off and cancel your subscription, because they will say that they are facts, when in reality it is just beholden to some leftist communist ideology that they want to push on you. So you should watch opinions of all sorts of different people to get a holistic approach. But you shouldn't watch people who are paid to lie to you. Literally paid to lie to you. That's what these people are. The mainstream media is paid to lie to you.
It is unfortunate that there is virtually not a single source in this country that you can go to without being pushed towards one side of the aisle. It is extremely unfortunate that we are in a society that is devoid of that. And again, on both sides of the aisle, it is unfortunate. Media and news are two different things. They are two different things, and we have greatly deviated from that. Another example, just to join in with Whoopi, is a woman you may recognize because she has a show on Peacock called The Amber Ruffin Show. We featured her on this show before because she did a remix of Poison.
That was her?
Talking about vaccines and how they're not poison and how you should get them and stop complaining. Well, here's her take on the Kyle Rittenhouse trial.
You guys, because I have my own show, I have a responsibility to say things that people need to know that aren't being said. It's a cool opportunity that I don't take lightly. There are very big, obvious truths that no one wants to say on TV, but I will. Now, just a few minutes before we started taping this show.
What?
First of all, just before we get really into it, the things that she's about to say are things that people all over cable TV, all over leftist Twitter, all in the mainstream media are saying.
Yeah.
I'm so brave. No one wants to say this. I'm going to say it, though. It's like, dude, you're saying what every other person has said.
Yep.
There's nothing brave about what you were about to say.
Yep. And the script
that's
is
how
written
that's
for
how
you.
they like manipulate you.
Yep.
They tell you that it's really brave to say it, and then you say it, and you're like, oh, I'm really brave then. It's like, you're not brave. You're parroting some person with a show that reaches millions of people getting paid millions of dollars. It's not brave.
That is a psychological tactic, ladies and gentlemen. Let's continue.
Kyle Rittenhouse, the man accused of shooting 3 people during a Black Lives Matter protest, was declared not guilty on all charges.
Based.
So I can't believe I have to say this, but it's not okay for a man to grab a rifle, travel across state lines, and shoot 3 people and then walk free. It's not okay for the judicial system to be blatantly and obviously stacked against people of color. It's not okay for there to be an entirely different set of rules for white people. But I don't care about Kyle Rittenhouse. I don't care about that racist judge. And I don't care about how up that jury must be. White people have been getting away with murder since time began. I don't care about that. I care about you. And I can't believe I have to say this, but you matter.
Who is that to?
Well, everything she said was right. She said, I don't want to. There shouldn't be a country where a white man can go kill 3 people and get away free. I agree. There shouldn't be a country where black people have unfair disadvantages. I agree. That's what the thing she said. She said things that are exactly truthful, that those things shouldn't be allowed. I totally agree with her. But the thing is that she thinks those are actually happening in America.
Yep.
They're not happening in America.
Yep.
That's how they trick you. That's how they trick you.
Yep.
Because those are things that everyone would say, yeah, no, we shouldn't have that. You shouldn't just have someone be able to go kill someone, kill 3 people. Of course not. That's so dumb. But to think that that's what actually happened without giving all the facts of the situation, that is how they lie to you. That is the trickery that they use to make you pull your little heartstrings and say, oh, you just want to kill black people. Yeah.
Blanket statements that sound good to anybody with 2 ears, but have nothing to do with the actual situation at hand. Kyle Rittenhouse is a man that defended himself. And what gets me about this is that your defense of Kyle Rittenhouse is a defense of your rights as well, especially if you are functioning under the assumption that you're a black person being targeted in America. If that's truly the case, would you not want the right to be able to defend yourself? You advocating for Kyle Rittenhouse is you advocating for the right to defend yourself. And it's not an effed up jury. What you really should be thinking about is how is it that after all the things that I heard from the media about Kyle Rittenhouse, did the jury come to an opposite conclusion? And instead of truly asking that question and doing a deep dive into this case and into this trial, they go, well, if it deviated from what I believe, it must be white supremacy.
Right.
That's what they think.
If I came out, if last Friday, Kyle Rittenhouse, let's say he was found guilty, even if he was found guilty, I wouldn't then come on the show and start crying. Would you cry?
If 4 years ago, I would have cried. 4 years ago, I would have cried.
But not now.
Not now, because I have the knowledge that I have now. But 4 years ago, I was exactly like Amber Ruffin. And if you're hearing the narrative that Kyle Rittenhouse being acquitted means that white supremacy wins in America and that the justice system is pitted against you as a black person and you would not get justice if you were in the same situation, of course you're going to cry. Of course you're going to feel this super viscerally emotional feeling when you see something like this happen, because the media has just pounded in your brain that this is a sign that nobody cares about you. The fact that she felt the need to end this special by saying, "You matter," means that her hearing Kyle Rittenhouse getting acquitted told her that she did not matter as a human being.
Also, they were fake crying. She was fake crying.
I won't say. I don't know.
100%.
I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
No, whether or not she was, whether or not she actually was fake crying or not, there are plenty of people, like Amala was saying, that sincerely have that level of emotional reaction to these headlines, and the media, like this clip that we just watched, they watch this stuff and it just reinforces this reality that they're living in. So the question I keep thinking as we're watching this stuff is like, how do we get people to care about the facts that break their narrative? Like the truth does not support the reasons for which you're crying, the reasons for which you're going out and being activists for all this stuff. So but they never even make it to the facts, because all they need to see is the simplistic narrative spelled out, and then that's enough to get me angry and go do something about it before I even look at the facts. And then by the time you're ready to look at the facts, you do whatever mental gymnastics you need to do to rearrange them to so that you don't have to break your narrative. You know what I mean?
It's like you have to relate it to them somehow. And I've thought about, like, how do you relate? What if I was going to talk to Amber Ruffin right now about this case? What is the way that I would relate to her in a way that I think would break through to what she's saying? And I don't know. You'd have to say something extreme, like, Amber, let's imagine that you live in Charlottesville and you watch Charlottesville happen right outside your door, and you thought, you know what, I want to come out and protect my community from the white supremacists, because that's what you heard in the media. And you go out there and 3 people attack you, and then in that subsequent attack you kill 3 people, or you kill 2 of them and you injure 1 of them. Would you then want the justice system to treat you as if you acted in self-defense? Absolutely you would. You would think that that is your right. Now, why, when we flip the script and talk about Kyle Rittenhouse, do you not feel the same way? And the only difference is skin color. That's the only difference. And that's how you point. It has to be personal. If you don't make it personal for people, they're never going to feel it, and their minds are not going to change.
Most people will never admit it. Amber Ruffin, even given that scenario, will never admit that that she was wrong there.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Because nobody will ever give her that scenario. But who knows? I don't know. I don't know if she was really crying. It seems to me like she was, and she truly does feel this way about the Rittenhouse trial. And again, if it was me 4 years ago and I was indoctrinated by mainstream media, I would feel the exact same way. But it's not true. It's not true.
It's not true.
And
It's an interesting question.
It is an interesting question. How do you break through that? That would be my first attempt.
People have to lose something.
They do.
I mean, really, it's like people are allowed in America. You've always had freedom, okay? Which is great. You should have freedom. But now people have the freedom to be absolutely stupid and misinformed at a degree I think we've never seen in this country and be able to get away with it without any sort of consequence. And now to be praised for their stupidity. You're literally praising people for being stupid and not doing research and being a slave. And because of that, no one has to be held accountable for their stupidity. Until you make it so that people are held accountable for the stupid things that they believe, you can't change someone's mind.
Yep.
You know, if someone thinks that eating garbage is good for them and they continually eat garbage and they live a full and great life, they're going to say, well, I ate garbage my whole life and I was fine. So maybe you talking about eating garbage is bad. Doesn't matter to me. And maybe that's a stupid analogy, but you get what I'm saying.
I get the premise of it.
If someone is doing something stupid forever and no one tells them that it's wrong and people are actually coming and saying, no, what you're doing is right. This is okay. You can't change them. Even with all the facts, even with all the logic, I mean, it's like they'll never be held accountable for believing stupid things.
No.
Yeah, until reality holds you accountable. And like, that's what we're seeing in...
There is no more reality. That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, the reality of, like, for example, we saw the other day, we let a guy out, a repeat violent offender, out of jail on $1,000 bail. And reality struck in the form of him driving a car through a crowd and injuring 48 people and murdering 5. You know, that is the reality that we need to wake up to. But even something as what is crazy is when even something as dramatic and in your face and obvious as that doesn't wake us up. It's like, what will? Even when our civil liberties are being taken away with these lockdowns and mandates on the basis of what? On not on facts. That's not enough to wake us up and make us care about facts again. So it's like, how far do we have to fall before we hit rock bottom? And how much do we have to suffer? How much of the loss of our freedom? How many lives have to be lost to violent criminals from being soft on crime until we suffer enough from our policies to hit rock bottom? We've asked ourselves that in reference to the state of California and how it's been governed. And I think it's still an open question. And I'm scared to know what the real answer is.
And you know what? We are sort of jaded in the sense that we wake up every day and we look at these stories. We consume a lot, if not nothing but this. So we are constantly seeing the woes of what's going on right now. But I'll tell you what, I get in an Uber and I start talking politics with people and they agree. And I meet people who go, well, yeah, I'm driving Uber now because my business got shut down during COVID-19 and I don't support what's going on right now. There are average Americans who would have supported these policies 2 years ago that don't support them now. And they are waking up. You just don't get to hear from them. Why? Because the mainstream media doesn't highlight them. No newspaper is going to talk about all these people who are changing their minds over this. And there will be people who change their minds because they watched Kyle Rittenhouse's trial. There will be people who change their minds on the faults of the justice system because they watched what happened in Wisconsin, because it's a tragedy. And unfortunately, when a car goes driving through a parade, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat or a conservative or a leftist. It does not matter. And those people, those families, those communities are going to feel it, and they're going to have to reevaluate what went wrong so that this happened. And that happens every time we cover a horrible story on here. I know it's you know, you tend to lose optimism and hope, but know that every time we cover a story on here, people saw that story and they've woken up because of it.
Part of the problem is like that Uber driver who you're talking about, as their minds changed, right? And think about all the people who you probably know, your person watching, and you're saying, well, this person now is a conservative, or this person now believes in freedom, or at least has shifted a little bit from their far left antics. Maybe they watch our show or the PragerU videos or other people. I don't know. But without action, it doesn't matter. Okay. I know for a fact that conservatives and us type of people are in the majority. I know that with the amount of people I talk to, even here in California, people who will agree with us. I know we're in the majority, but most people don't do anything. So even if we're changing minds, it doesn't matter if we're changing minds if the people whose minds aren't changed aren't doing anything, because then again, just like we were talking about, like reality will keep slapping you in the face, but if people don't wake up to change that reality, even if they know the truth, but they don't wake up to change the reality, it doesn't change. It doesn't change. So just because you know something doesn't mean that you've done your job. Unless you're just like on a totally individualist basis and you want to separate yourself from society, sure, go ahead. But if you are someone who wants to live as a community and talk about politics and the world and things holistically, you have to do more than just know these things.
Yeah.
You reminded me, like, I think I don't remember exactly the scripture reference, but Jesus said, like, someone who hears my commands but doesn't obey them is like someone who looks at themselves in the mirror and walks away and forgets what he looks like. And that's exactly what you're talking about. It's like just knowing the truth but not implementing it, not acting on it, not fighting back in some way or working to help others wake up is like, well, what's the point of you being woken up if you're just going to be quiet and just not speak your mind, not use your voice to try to change things?
Exactly right.
Yeah. So speaking of using your voice to hopefully change things, here's the story in our headline today. Thomas Jefferson statue removed from City Hall after 187 years. Before we dive into this, guys, if you are watching right now, I want to let you know that you can listen. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, all podcast platforms. Will and Amala Live is there. We do want to boost our following on there and our subscription rate. So if you guys want to go and check it out, listen to us on there. If you guys have busy days and you can't sit on YouTube for an hour, you can always listen to what we have to say later on in the day on those platforms. Now, let's talk about this. So the Thomas Jefferson statue has been removed. The 884-pound statue of Jefferson was removed in a wooden crate Monday after the mayoral commission voted to banish the likeness of the nation's third president from City Hall, where it has resided for nearly 2 centuries. Why? Because he owned slaves. And it is really it's really deceptive, the way that they did this. They were going to remove this without asking a soul. They were going to do a private commission meeting where they decided, a committee meeting where they decided we're going to take this statue out, until the Post got wind of it and posted it and said, no, if you're going to remove a statue or a monument, it deserves a public hearing. So they ended up doing it publicly, begrudgingly, and now it's gone. The statue has been removed, and a man writes, moving this statue doesn't mean that New Yorkers will forget who Thomas Jefferson was, but some of them might learn from the controversy that the man who wrote all men are created equal owned over 600 of his fellow humans. That's what Thomas said. Aaron Thompson, who is a professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, of course.
Leave it to a professor to say something so stupid.
Yep. It's just amazing. The idea that you have to remove a monument of somebody, why? There's really no logic behind here. I don't know ever. I was never in school where we learned about the founding fathers and the founding of this country without learning about slavery. That has never been the reality in the American public school system. But they've implanted the idea that this has been, and it's really nefarious, because when you do implant that idea and it does catch wind and other media outlets pick it up, then there's this massive move to get rid of our actual history. I don't care if you write on the plaque that Thomas Jefferson was the third president and he also owned slaves. I don't care. At least his statue's there for people to learn about the founding of this country.
These people are the biggest losers on the planet. I mean, seriously, if you're going to go back and remove Thomas Jefferson statues during, this is what communism does, okay? This is what evil people, this is what world controllers do, okay? If they want to change the society, what they do is they make you hate your own country. They make you hate your history. They make you hate everything about the place that you live, okay? Go back and look at how Mao and Lenin and Stalin, how all of these men were able to transform their countries. Okay, Mao used to go and he would tell people we need to get rid of the old and get rid of all these Buddhist temples and destroy all these things for industry while killing, millions of people. And Lenin and Stalin did the same thing, getting rid of the old stuff and then building in this new era of new things, where our past is gross and bad and we need to be this new country. That's exactly like Brave New World as well, where Brave New World says, get rid of this old stuff and we need all new stuff. And this is exactly what they do. They make you hate yourself. They make you hate your country, make you hate your heritage so that they can destroy all of those things that you love for their own wealth and their own gain.
Yeah,
This is how they work.
It's also so they can destroy the modern society, what we've created in modernity. Because what they do is they go, well, this country was founded on the principles of slavery and white supremacy and patriarchy. And you go, okay, well, then maybe we get rid of the monuments and maybe we teach history through that lens. And we talk about Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and John Adams, but maybe we add some lesson plans where we talk about the patriarchy that existed back then that doesn't exist now, or the racism that existed back then but doesn't exist now. But then they go, oh, no, I actually don't want to do that. Instead, I want to erase the entire founding. Let's move 1776 to 1619. And since all of these systems and institutions that we have right now were technically founded on the foundation of the founding fathers, we need to get rid of those too. So we need to just really do a whole upheaval of the government, abolish all these institutions and systems that we've had to date, because they're all founded in that sort of ideology. You can't escape from it. That's what they're saying. It'd be a totally different thing if they said, well, yeah, I mean, America was, involved in the transgression of slavery for quite some time until it was abolished. And now we've gone through a civil rights movement, and by and large, white and black people are equal in this country. But that's not what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is saying that those same tenets that existed back then exist now. And that's not the case.
I don't think that they care about any of that. I don't think that when people talk about Confederate statues, they don't actually care. They don't care that it was a Confederate monument and they think that they're doing their service. All they want to do is destroy history. All they want to do is destroy history to bring in their new era of BS, of their dictatorship.
I don't know.
Of they can control you. If they destroy the history, they can control you. If you think that these, like, there's no way these people really care about Confederate statues or Thomas Jefferson. Like, you have to literally have an IQ of 1 to believe that Thomas Jefferson is like a horrible person.
I don't think that's true, because we've been told that if you've done something wrong in the past, that's the heart of what the cancel culture that we're seeing is right now, is if you've done something wrong in the past, everything you've done after that is horrible. Although they do that selectively with people, and we can talk about that further. But they do truly believe it. They do truly believe that you having this statue here is going to promote values that are harmful to people of color or to women, and that they believe that the teaching of history that we are putting in right now is not true history. So if you told them, hey, I think you want to destroy history, they would go, absolutely not. I want a more honest telling of history. They just have a different view. I don't think they're lying. I don't think they're lying.
They're like, if we're talking Lord of the Rings terms, you got the orcs, okay? And the orcs are, I think they more agree with you of they actually believe these things. But Sauron and the Nazgul and the people who are like the upper echelons of this empire, this leftist empire, do not believe those things. If you're telling me, if you think that Mao, when he was destroying the Buddhist temples, he did not care about the things he was saying. He said that it was for getting rid of the old so we can usher in a new society that's better and getting rid of these old things. He did not care. There's no way he cared. There's no way that Stalin cared about the architecture, the great architecture, and saying we need to build into a new place to get rid of this old stuff, to move into a new future. There's no way they cared.
I think you can always differentiate the elites and the bureaucrats from the average day people. But I think what we do when we talk about the elites in that way, even though I think largely that is true, they don't care and they know exactly what they're doing. What you do is you sort of dehumanize them. Everybody has their motivations, and the typical person on this earth thinks that their motivations are good, think that they're compassionate. Everything is motivated, not everything, but by and large, people are motivated by the intent to do good. And good intentions obviously have horrendous results on a number of different occasions, but that doesn't change the lens that people think they're working through. I advocated for a lot of horrible, stupid stuff now looking back in retrospect, but all with good intentions. And that's what people think they're doing. They think by getting rid of this Thomas Jefferson statue that they are doing good. We are dispelling the myths of American history by calling out this slave owner and having nobody see his face outside the City Hall of New York City because he is not an example of what America stands for. That's what they think.
I think there are some, but definitely not all.
I mean, would you say, Amala, that you were being manipulated at the time that you were advocating for these things, as far as the ideas that were being the way the world was being presented to you, the ideas that you were being given to believe in? Did you follow along? Like, I don't know, the ideas themselves, I think, are built. It's like the people who crafted the Marxist ideology that is now taking over our country, people like Antonio Gramsci and Herbert Marcuse and the guy at the Frankfurt School. They were evil people who hated capitalism, were bitter at the world and bitter at existence, and crafted this ideology that would motivate people to undo Western civilization. But I think that like they had to sell that to people, and so the way they sold it to people was through this emotional victimology, identity politics, and this narrative, and that's sort of what it's evolved into these days. And so people genuinely emotionally, like that we saw the girl cry the cry. It was like, was she sincere, was she not? Maybe, but either way, it's on a false premise, and that's the whole problem here, is that like everything that people are being manipulated into caring about so much is all based on falsehoods. And so what we're trying to do is be like, no, guys, the facts do not support this. This is not truth. And by the way, it's like you are doing a disservice to humanity by tearing down the statue. You don't understand the evil that you're committing right now. We're trying to stop you from running our country off this cliff. But I don't think people, obviously they don't understand that. They don't understand the deeper picture or the truth beneath what they're doing.
That is the key. The key words in that entire statement were, obviously you don't understand.
Yeah.
Obviously you don't understand. Obviously I did not understand. And it took me actually like feeling in my heart that I wanted to seek something and make sure that what I thought was true, but that's not the narrative that is pressed. Was I manipulated as a young person into believing in woke ideology? Yes, because the premise is false. But were the people who told me the things that I learned manipulators? Did they view themselves as manipulators? Did they go, well, I'm puppet mastering this girl to believe she's oppressed? No, they thought they were doing something good for me.
That's why I always disagree with you guys, because I think it's about the idea, like, you know, we're not fighting against people who think, or in public, I don't think anyone's smart enough to be controlling all this stuff. I think it's these ideas are evil and toxic, and they've been specifically crafted and refined over the years to appeal and be marketed to people in the ways that'll pull on their heartstrings and manipulate them. And then it brings more people into the service of those ideas. I don't think anyone's smart enough to sit behind it and like craft this stuff.
I think
some people, I mean, look at like Howard Zinn's book, A People's History of America. This guy was a Marxist for his entire life.
Yeah, and he figured out a great way to market his ideology through his book.
But he didn't actually care about the stuff. I mean, he wanted to destroy America. Yeah, exactly. That's what he wanted to do. But it wasn't that he was like, oh, I'm not trying to. I'm really caring about these Native Americans and Columbus when I'm talking about this book. He literally lied in the book. He took things out of context in the original documents of Columbus. He took things with the bombing of Dresden. Couldn't even get the dates right in World War II. I mean, like to say that someone like this is not a manipulator. I mean, that he is a manipulator. He manipulated people.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But it's not with evil intent. That is my the base of my argument. It's not evil intent.
You know, Bill Gates isn't gonna say he's evil, right? Hitler didn't think he was evil,
right?
You know, so just because people don't think that they're evil doesn't mean that they aren't evil. And the way that even if you're manipulating people for good, or you think that it's good, you know, you can still be evil.
Yeah,
so
but I think the problem is their ideas are wrong, and I think that's what needs to be defeated ultimately, because if it's not Howard Zinn, it's going to be somebody else. It's the idea. It was Marx, it was Zinn, it was whoever. You know, it's still ultimately the end of the day. The ideas are what need to be defeated.
Yeah, if Karl Marx didn't exist, would there be another Karl Marx? Absolutely.
Yeah, we talked about that before.
We have talked about that before. Of course, there would be another person who goes, wait a second, I recognize inequality here. What if everybody were equal, and what if the government facilitated that because that's the hierarchy that we live under? Absolutely, there would be somebody else who would come along with that idea. And because that is sort of inherent to us, that's why I think it is all based in good intent and people wanting to recognize and solve what they perceive to be problems. Yeah. Unfortunately. And Gosh. Speaking of this, let's get into another discussion here. Here's out of a Catholic university. The Catholic University in America, they are depicting George Floyd as Jesus Christ to hang in this Catholic university. And here's the photo for you guys to take a look at. Oh my goodness.
Not much to say about this one,
This
other
is-
than just evil. I mean, truly, they will shell out your religion and wear it as a trophy.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
we talk about like how offensive or how easily people are offended these days. This is something that is actually offensive. And like, I'm offended by this as a Christian. It's disgusting.
And it's like one thing if you're like a stupid kid and you're at, Yale or something and you draw this and put it in your dorm room. This is a Catholic university putting that up for people.
Yeah, it's
mean,
just, come on. Come on.
Man.
If you want to, come on, man, chocolate chip ice cream. If you guys want to have a discussion about George Floyd and all the logistics of the case and what happened and Derek Chauvin, by all means do that. And I'm the one person on this podcast who isn't religious. I'm an agnostic, but it's still not okay. It's not okay to do that. Like, there's ways to have this conversation and to get across whatever it is that you were trying to say by doing that without doing that. Very, very, I don't know how many people this had to go through for this to get presented to people or to put up wherever it was put up. But oh my goodness, how many eyes had to see this and go, sure, that sounds right. That's okay.
Well, the eyes of God saw it. And we can know that the people who put it into place will face judgment.
But this is like the most...
Do not worship false idols. Literally, it's in the
Yeah.
commandments. Do not worship false idols. That is what you are doing. You are turning George Floyd into a Jesus Christ figure.
Yeah.
You've broken a commandment by doing so.
It epitomizes the left's tendency to make heroes out of criminals and to make criminals out of heroes.
Yep.
Like we saw in the Rittenhouse case.
How can you say
And
that?
it's-
How can you say these people have good intentions when they make a child rapist a hero? I mean, there's no way.
Indoctrination.
That's
Indoctrination
craziness.
is a powerful tool, and we are in the end stages of it. It is an extremely powerful tool. And I could see all the leftist arguments that would be put out for Anthony Hubers, for George Floyd, and we heard them. You go on Twitter, look him up. It doesn't matter what he did in years ago. This was a moment right now. Kyle didn't know that he was a child rapist when he shot him. All Kyle knew was what was in front of him. Blah, blah, blah. The leftist statements are there. The indoctrination is there, and people truly believe it. I don't think that's a question. Do they truly believe it? Because I think they do. I think they truly believe it.
They don't do any research.
Yeah, fair enough.
they're
Or the
so-
research that they do is the CNNs and MSNBCs and ABCs. And if that's your research, then of course you're going to come out on one side of the aisle.
Yeah, they've been fed a worldview that causes them to do atrocious things. It's like what Voltaire said. If somebody can get you to believe absurdities, they can get you to commit atrocities. And, like we could talk about the Nazi prison guards or whatever. Did they think that they were doing good
Exactly.
by eradicating the problem was that the ideology that they bought into trained them to believe that what they were doing was a good for the world, or was a good for their world. And so if you're able to change someone's definition of good, or what's moral, then you enable them to commit atrocities. And this is one example of that.
Yeah, and I think that's why I think a lot of the undertones in leftist talking, before we move on to our TikToks, our Thanksgiving TikToks for the day, a lot of the undertones have to deal with utopia. And it's like sacrifice your momentary happiness, sacrifice civility, sacrifice, order and give into chaos for this moment, but know that it's because you're fighting for utopia. You are fighting for a world where everybody's equal and nobody feels lesser than and nobody's impoverished and nobody's discriminated against. But in the meantime, while you're fighting for that, it's going to get ugly. And sometimes you got to lie. Sometimes you got to fudge the numbers. Sometimes you got to manipulate. But all because you are saving the world and you are going to create a utopia. You are going to transform society. Can't tell you how many times I've heard that. Yeah. And that's their motivation.
To that point, Amala, I just heard Jordan Peterson make this point to Steven Pinker and John Haidt on his recent podcast. But he talked about how in a Judeo-Christian worldview, you push utopia out into eternity. That's what the purpose of heaven is. And so because of that, if you are living according to that worldview, you don't believe that a utopia is achievable on earth. So you understand that you have to live within this imperfect world of trade-offs. You have to face your own fallen nature. You have to know that other people have fallen nature, and you have to, it's a much more grounded, workable worldview. Whereas if you're always striving toward utopia and the end justifies the means to get there, again, that's how you get into crazy totalitarian, you get into atrocities, because, well, I'm trying to get from A to B. So Stalin, why don't I throw, millions of people into gulags and starve them to death because, well, I'm trying to build this utopia. But if utopia can't exist on earth and we have to wait till heaven under a Judeo-Christian worldview, then no, we have to play by the rules of living in this fallen world. And that is actually maps onto reality and works.
Yeah, it's like, look at the horrible things that have been done in the name of religion. And it's the same lens of, I'm doing this on the basis of, this is my ideology, this is my religious practice, and it is going to lead to utopia in some way, shape, or form, whether that is earthly or unearthly, but it will. And that's why we have jihadists and Islamic fundamentalists. And to think you're not susceptible to that in whatever way. And oftentimes you have to check yourself. I often have to check myself with things that I say, even with the side that I'm on now, because it is so easy as a human being to fall into those ideological holes, to pigeonhole yourself in an idea at the sake of towing your ideology or just falling along the lines that you're supposed to fall along without questioning anything. And that's the worst thing that can happen to anybody. It really is. And it happens to all of us. None of us are saved from that at all. So on that light note of none of us being saved from falling into ideological holes, let's point out some of those. Thanksgiving is coming up. And of course, we have the crazy leftists hopping on TikTok and putting out their Thanksgiving themed TikToks. And let's end the show with reacting to a few of these. Here's number 1.
Are you going to invite your unvaccinated relatives to sit at the dinner table with you this Thanksgiving? Experts are saying you might not want to risk it. Here's why. According to one expert from McMaster University, vaccines are super effective, but they're most effective when you're surrounded by other vaccinated people. If you invite someone who isn't vaccinated, there's a risk of having a breakthrough case. Now, breakthrough cases are pretty rare. There's only ever been about 8,000 in Ontario, but kids can't get vaccinated yet. So part of keeping those kids as safe as possible is telling that one uncle who chooses not to get vaccinated that he might have to sit this one out. One bioethicist said that that's actually the more ethical thing to do. She also said you should try talking to your relatives about how safe vaccination is. The best way to do that is to start the conversation from a place of respect and empathy. Say things like, I understand you're feeling pressure. I know you're freaked out, but here's why this is important.
I'm not freaked out. You're freaked out. You're the one who's telling me I can't come to your stupid Thanksgiving because if I don't get 3 shots.
Again, what was the underlying message in that? If you are empathetic and you have good intentions, this is what you do.
I like
talked about.
How she said vaccines are most effective when you're surrounded by other vaccinated people. So it's not more safe when you're like by yourself outside, but if you're surrounded by 10 other people who happen to be vaccinated, then you're extra safe. It's like the power combines or something.
Yeah, seriously. It's like the Thanos rings or whatever. Yeah. The way she was talking was like, I thought that it was almost like a joke. With how bad it was. I was like, this is like, is she satire right now? I was like, this is so bad.
Not satirical. Yeah. It's crazy. I'm hearing from...
make this kind of stuff.
There are real families who are not letting family members come home for Thanksgiving because they're not vaccinated.
I know lots of those types of families, yeah.
It's so sad. Goodness.
It's just stupid. You're not going to let someone come to your Thanksgiving because they're not vaccinated?
Trickery.
Your turkey isn't vaccinated.
We will not even accept a negative COVID test. You must be triple jabbed to come in. Like, okay, I don't get this. Like, my dad made this point the other day. He was flying back in the country from somewhere, and he's like, on the plane, everyone has to get on the plane, you have to show a negative COVID test. So everyone did that. It's like a 13-hour flight or something. He's like looking around. He's like, wait a second. Everyone on this plane does not have COVID according to our negative COVID test. So why do we have to keep wearing these masks? Like, what purpose is it done? Also, I had this thought the other day of like, as far as I know, I still have never gotten COVID. Mm-hmm. So every time I've ever put a mask on, because they're not to protect you, they're to protect others, it's been completely useless because I've never been infected with COVID. So every time I've put a mask over my mouth has been for absolutely no reason as far as COVID is concerned.
Well, even if you had COVID, putting a mask on is still completely useless.
It is.
Yeah,
you know,
it's always been useless.
It has been useless.
But isn't that crazy? If you just like every once in a while, you just take a step back and be like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But
I went to, Taylor and I went to lunch today, right? The guy's like, kind of rude. He's like, you're not allowed inside. Like, you can sit inside if you're fully vaccinated. And we're like, okay, well, we're going to sit outside then. So we sit outside. And I was like, oh, can I use
this at our place? I won't say the name.
Yeah. I was like, yo, can I use the bathroom? He's like, oh yeah, you can go inside. Just put a mask on. So you wouldn't let me inside to sit down and eat because I'm not vaccinated. But if I want to go into the same establishment, walk past all the tables and go to your restroom, I have to put on a mask.
Which is the same amount of time you have to you only have to wear a mask to sit down at the table anyways. It's just, the nonsense has gotten. Well, now it was a new guy, the new waiter that, I don't know, he was like.
They should fire him.
Our usual lady was there and she was nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Now I can't go back there. I haven't been to a restaurant in 3 weeks. I haven't been anywhere in 3 weeks. Since these stupid mandates. I literally haven't been anywhere.
Look, hey, I went to Chili's the other night and they didn't ask anything and we went in with
Chili's is still sacred.
Chili's is based.
Chili's is still based.
That's good.
Here's another TikTok here, Thanksgiving theme.
Would you like to know the number one tell that a company or a fitness instructor is ascribed to diet culture? Listen up. If the company is hosting a turkey burn. If you've never heard of a turkey burn, it's a workout that's designed to help you sweat it all out, which is a euphemism for saying, you ate too much! And you're gonna need to work out so much that there's literally no energy left in your system. You can't even remember the turkey you ate. So if you're trying to ditch diet culture and you see a company that's selling a turkey burn, run for the hills! You don't need to earn your food over the holidays or ever. Would you like to know the number?
Just be a fat slob.
I don't get what she's... Okay, well, first of all, there is some truth to what she's saying. There's no such thing as a turkey burn. You're not going to go and burn off your entire Thanksgiving dinner in one go. But the idea that...
Well, that's not what she was saying.
She was saying if your gym holds a turkey burn,
right,
then they're participating in diet culture and you don't have to earn your calories, girl. Yeah. You should be able to eat whatever you want and screw your gym if they want to do a turkey burn.
Great message.
Oh, your gym wants you to be in shape? What does your gym know?
She's also wearing workout clothes and looks super fit. So I'm confused. Yeah, I'm very confused.
It's by this woman. But she's like a Demi Lovato 2.0 that got triggered by there being diet and fat-free and sugar-free options at the yogurt shop and went on a big tirade about it. So she's
I'm just over it.
Mad at gyms that want to help you lose weight, apparently.
Gosh.
Your gym better help you gain weight.
Yeah.
No gym losing weight on my watch.
It's so weird that you just can't say normal things like, hey, if you want to control your weight a little bit, diet would probably be the best way to do that. And that's offensive now.
At our gym, we're having a pizza party and a vax party, and we're turning all the machines off for your health.
No, straight up. You know what gym does that? Planet Fitness. They literally
Planet Fitness is the worst.
Once every 2 weeks, there's pizza parties and donut parties and stuff. It's okay. Well,
it's a shame-free culture. I was at Planet Fitness for a year.
Ridiculous.
It was all right. It's $10. That was the positive. But
one more TikTok here, guys, before we wrap up. Another Thanksgiving one. Here we go.
I'm a pro-mask, pro-vaccine, pro-science, radical, leftist, liberal, socialist, commie, fascist, supported by Antifa, BLM, George Soros, the Clintons, and Bill Gates. Yeetus the fetus, eat the rich, burn it all down, and start over again. So...
The caption on that is me, 26, sitting at the kids' table during Thanksgiving, explaining to my little cousins why I'm not allowed to babysit.
That's probably a good idea. You're not allowed to babysit.
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't let you babysit my kids.
The amount of contradictions I just heard. She said she was a leftist, commie, socialist, fascist, liberal. None of those things.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously playing it up for a gag on.
Of course, but yeah, but still, all leftist things, or at least she was trying.
Yeah.
Oh,
isn't that a sound? Was that a sound?
Yeah, she's just lip syncing to it.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Fantastic.
Listen, I don't want anyone like that around my children. Hell no. Go get your own children. But she probably won't. Yeah, she probably won't.
She did say yeetus the fetus. So for all of you guys who are not tuned in to Gen Z slang, to yeet something is to get rid of it. So to get rid of the fetus.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, she
Wow.
said, yeetus the fetus.
Did you know that, Will? About the yeet means to get rid of something?
Well, it means like to throw it.
Yeah, yeet. Just get rid of, throw away.
Well, wait, didn't people used to say, like, I'm being really boomer here, but
Yeah, just
like,
say it.
didn't people just say, like, yeet?
Yeah.
Like, that's exciting, but that means, like, throw something?
it's
No,
like-
they like,
Yeah, if you had like a piece of like
it was
you're
like a
at
thing to throw
school,
something, go
yeah.
like, yeet.
Yeah, you had like an eraser and you like throw it into a crowd of people and you're like yeet.
Okay,
Yeah.
what is the genesis of the sheesh thing?
It's gone. It's dead. That's the
it's dead.
genesis. The life cycle is over. Nobody says sheesh anymore.
What did it mean?
I never said that.
It's just like icy, like wow, like that's super cool. Like sheesh, that's
Icy?
really
I
good.
don't know what icy means either.
Icy is like cool.
Who says that?
Oh my gosh, y'all are. I need to get y'all. We need to do a Gen Z slang on this show one of these days. I'll educate the viewers, educate you and Taylor.
No, that is the opposite of education. That is
I'm
just
icy.
Stupidity.
You've never heard
being
somebody
put-
say I'm icy?
if they have like gold chains. and
Yeah,
stuff.
but they say that too. But you can say it without it.
I heard Vanilla Ice do that in the 80s.
Icy is technically being decked out with diamonds,
Yeah,
but
that's
people
what it
can say
means.
I'm icy, and it doesn't have. You don't have
Oh,
to.
so
be,
they're poor people
just be like, I'm
pretending
cool.
to be cool.
Sure.
No, see, we've done a few segments where we show Amala like NFL team logos and try to get her to name the teams, and
Yeah.
it's really funny. So we need to get her to do like Gen
My
Z
lingo.
stuff,
Yeah.
and try to get
Yeah.
us to name things. And
I'll just do like name this
We can have a
celebrity, and you
laugh at
guys
Will
will
and
have
I's
no
expense.
idea. You guys will
I
have
don't
no
know.
idea.
I don't have anything I can do for either of you guys because
no,
I'm
you
in
don't.
between. I'm the tweener,
Yeah, he's the tweener.
and I don't know. I don't have anything.
We'll figure it out, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We went over a lot of stories today. We did an update on how people are responding to Kyle Rittenhouse. We had Nick Searcy on to talk about his newest movie coming out on Thanksgiving Day, Capital Punishment, the movie, which you can check out at capitalpunishmentthemovie.com. We went over some crazy TikToks and talked about Thomas Jefferson's statue being removed from the New York City City Hall. Again, if you didn't get a chance to catch all the stories, or you just want to listen to us again later, go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Play. Leave us a 5-star review and follow us on there so you can get updates every time a new episode is uploaded. Guys, please like, subscribe, click the notification bell. It really does help us, boost us over the censorship that YouTube and Facebook are trying to put us through by liking our content and leaving a comment so that other people see that you like the show. We're going to be back tomorrow, 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern, and we will see you then. Bye, guys.
Bye.